Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Once again, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited today to have Kelli Davis on. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh man, this is going to be amazing when you guys hear her story and what she's doing to make this world a better place. And I do want to give thanks to our sponsor, Veracity Networks. They've been amazing to me. And I also want to thank all the listeners for all your support and sharing this to so many people. I get so much really good feedback from everybody, so thank you so much. But you guys are going to love Kelli. She's an amazing person. We met, just a few weeks ago, and I've been looking up what she's doing in this with her career and the things that she's doing and the influence you're having on people. It's quite remarkable, and sharing stories of people who are doing amazing things. She is the head of celebrity relations for Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, where she works closely with A-list celebrities to raise funds and awareness for 10 million kids each year. That's amazing. 170 children's hospitals across North America as well. She's also a motivational speaker, author. She just handed me her book, The Miracle of Maverick, which is, I can't wait to read that. And then she's the host of Untold Miracles Podcast, where she interviews celebrities to discuss the miracles in her life. So it's a lot about miracles, right? And your life's a miracle.
Yes, miracles is definitely a big theme in my life. Having worked with Children's Miracle Network hospitals for the last 23 years, I have witnessed miracle after miracle after miracle. And I've also experienced miracles in my life. And so I really love helping people believe in miracles, but most importantly, be willing to create miracles for those around them.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm excited to kind of get into that with for our listeners as well. So let's start off. Just give us a little background. Where did you grow up?
Sure.
A little bit about your family and.
Well, I grew up in Wyoming, in Star Valley, Wyoming, Afton. I was there 18 years. I went to college at BYU, and I actually had a really amazing experience right when I finished school. I had applied to be an intern for the Denver Broncos twice, and I got turned down twice. And it was my childhood dream since I was 5 years old to work for them.
So how come the Denver Broncos?
They're the closest football team to Wyoming. My brother got a football helmet when he was 7. I was 5. And so I just fell in love with them. And I had studied sports PR at BYU, and I was interviewing with different colleges to be an assistant sports information director, and I was in Denver, and I was in the hotel room, and there was a Denver Broncos mouse pad on the table, and I'm like, well, I'm in Denver, I might as well just call them up. So I got the Yelp pages out since there was not Google, however you would do it today, and I took a taxi over to the facility. I'd called the guy and to see if I could meet with him, and he said no. And I said, I just need 5 minutes of your time. And I remember walking up the stairs to the facility, and he said, how can I help you? And I said, I want to know what I need to do to work for this football club.
Wow.
And he walked out of the room, and he brought in my boss, Bill Harpole, and I got a job a week later, and I packed my bags from Provo, Utah, and I moved to Denver, and I was able to live that childhood dream, and it was a miracle. It really was amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a miracle, but I also want to point out, man, talk about determination, right? You had this in your mind, like, I'm going to make this happen, and I think that's pretty rare. I mean, where did you get that type of confidence to, like, you know what, I'm going to actually go there and get this job?
Well, for some reason, most of my life, I have not taken no for an answer. I don't believe in the words no. Like, if you tell me no, I'm going to get a yes. And typically in my job working with celebrities, it takes me about 20 no's to get to a yes, but I know that. So knowing that, it helps me be successful.
Really?
And so I was told no twice with them, but I believed that I could get a job with them. And I was able to live that dream, and it was such a cool experience. I remember my first football game, and I was I was the assistant to the director of operations, and I also was the press box coordinator, and I was in the press box, and I watched John Elway throw a long bomb to Rod Smith, and I had goosebumps, and I couldn't cheer because I was in the press box. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this right now.
Wow, right.
And it was just truly unbelievable, and I still can't even believe that it happened.
That is the neatest thing. Where did that determination come from? Were you like that as a little girl as well?
Yeah, I've always been very kind of strong-willed. And I've always believed that anything is possible. Like anything is possible. I think the hard part in life is determining what it is that you want to do. I think that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But once you know, I truly believe that you can achieve anything. I know that 100%. I've seen it. I watch people do it all the time.
Is that something you learned from your parents? Did they instill that in you? Or is that just kind of like you were born with this kind of belief that you could do these kind of things?
Well, it's interesting. My parents definitely, I think, taught me to be strong and authentic and be myself. But I also feel like it comes from a place of lack as well. I feel like I've had to prove myself my whole life. I've had struggles with low self-esteem my whole life, and depression and anxiety and so many challenges. And I think because of that, it pushes me on the other side. And it's really weird because you would think that that wouldn't help, but I think it's because of that I push so hard.
Yeah. Almost use it as a strength to stand on versus, something to push you down.
Yes.
Wow. And that's actually pretty rare. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. It's, I will say, it really did struggle at BYU. I went from being very popular in high school to like 600 people to my first class at BYU was 1,000 people. So I became a nobody overnight.
Yeah.
And that's when I think my journey with anxiety and depression and several other things started. And it also started when I was 17 years old. I had back surgery. I had cracked both sides of L4.
Oh, really?
And they took bone off my hip and wired and fused it in the cracks. And so my senior year of high school, I couldn't play basketball or volleyball or run track. And I think everything really started in life became about my weight. And I was so focused on I'm not good enough unless I'm a certain weight. And then I go to BYU and everybody's perfect, in my opinion, or at least in my filter that I'm looking through life. Yeah. And so I think that's when a lot of my challenges started.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, like these challenges that you were going through.
Yeah.
I know that led to some other challenges as well.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah. So I would say that's really where I was very aware of everything around me and feeling like everyone was perfect. And I felt like I didn't measure up. And so I graduated from BYU feeling less than and really struggling with anxiety and depression. I went to therapy while I was there. And then I think when I was around, I'm 46 today, but when I was around 25 is really when I started dealing with depression.
Okay.
At a high level. And that's when I started having some addictive behaviors. That's kind of been a long journey of those behaviors. And so I've really struggled with suicidal thoughts and body dysmorphic disorder and OCD and anxiety. And it's been a really interesting journey.
Right.
And, but I feel really blessed to experience all those things because on the flip side of that, I have a beautiful life.
Yeah.
But I still have those challenges on a daily basis.
And I love that you say that because, one of the things I tell my clients all the time that life happens for us.
Yes.
I did a group yesterday that we talked about this, that these tough times you're going through, I work with a lot of people who are, are going through they're battling an addiction. And I always say your addiction is your wake up call to your greatness. And so here you are, you're going through all this stuff.
Yes.
You've fought through these things,
Yes.
but it was like the wake up call for you even, right? That no, I even though I'm going through this, I'm going to go do amazing things in this world. And it's so amazing to hear what you're doing now, which we'll get into here in a minute. But so it's interesting. You're going through these trials and tribulations, but at the same time, you're like, no, I'm going to get a job at the Denver Broncos. And you would think because you're going through that, that'd be the last thing on your mind. Like, I can't do that. I'm not worthy of that.
Yeah.
But here you are and you go after it.
Yeah. And what was really interesting is while I was in Denver, it was the end of the 95 football season. And for me, I'm a person that has to be going, but it was off season and my job in the off season is not that busy. And so I had it was a really cool spiritual experience where I had prayed one night that I'm like, you know what? I really just feel like I need to be back in Utah. And literally to my recollection, it was like the next day I got a phone call from Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and they offered to fly me out to Salt Lake City for a job interview. I'd never heard of this company.
Really?
And I remember driving up to Holiday, Utah, in this little kind of rundown building, and I was working in this amazing facility, and I'm like, do I want to leave my dream job to go work for a nonprofit organization? But at the time, we were working with a lot of sports celebrities, the NFL quarterback club, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do it. And honestly, that was the biggest answer to prayer, and it was the biggest miracle in my life, because looking back on that, I mean, I remember I made a pros and cons list of should I do this, but I did it, and I have had 23 years of the most incredible experiences and challenging times as well.
Right.
But it was truly an answer to prayer, and that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah, and what's interesting, you weren't seeking after them; they came to you, right?
No, I'd never heard of them. It was a phone call, and that's why I really like to tell people that God, or a higher power, if you don't believe in God, is very aware of you. The universe is very aware of you. The universe, God, loves you, and it's so important that we trust that plan that universe God has for you.
Yeah,
because it's real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Because here you are at your dream job, right? Denver Broncos, and then you get this call out of the blue, and then you go, you obviously interview, and then that went well, and you've been there for...
I started in January 28th, 1996.
Wow.
And I can't believe... I'm so lucky because we treat 10 million kids each year at these hospitals, and I get to meet them. And I get to see the challenges that they go through on a daily basis. Some will never get out of their wheelchair. Yeah. Some will never speak. Some will never taste food. Some will never, ever not be in pain. Yet they choose to be brave. They choose to be positive. They choose to show up. They choose to inspire others. They choose to be a bright light. And I can do the same, even though I have some hard challenges every day.
Yeah.
I can choose to show up, and I can choose to help others like they do for me.
Wow. Yeah, and it really proves when you see these things and you see these people going through such tough times that how powerful the human spirit is. Like we can go through some tough things and rise above it.
Yes.
And you get to see this on a daily basis.
Yes. And honestly, they're my greatest inspiration, because there are days, I don't know if you know much about body dysmorphic disorder, but it sucks. And there are days that I do not want to get out of bed. I do not want to show up. I do not want to be seen. I feel, I don't want to deal with it. But I think of them. I think of how they would kill if they could even get out of bed and walk, right? Some of them would just kill to have the opportunity to get out of bed and walk to the bathroom. Like they'll never have that. And so it really helps me. Like, you know what, Kelly? You are so blessed. Life is a gift. Every day we have, what is it? How many seconds do we have in a day? I think it's like 48 something. We have so many seconds in a day. Are we taking advantage of it? Are we realizing it? Because I will tell you, I have kids that don't make it.
Yeah.
And I watch them, and I watch how every day is a gift for them and their families. And I watch what their families go through when they pass away. And even though we do have some really big challenges in life, we have some really big opportunities because we're here.
Yeah. Wow. That's inspiring. You know, someone sent me a video of this kid who has never seen color before. And I guess there's these special glasses that this company makes. Anyway, and that showed him putting on these glasses, and for the first time in his life, he's seeing color. And he gets emotional. He starts to cry. And it's just interesting how we take these little things for granted. And again, you get to see this on a daily basis, and you know, as a reminder, like, you know, I'm going to get out of bed even though I don't want to, because I have the opportunity to do that, where some kids don't get to do that.
It's interesting.
You know?
Just Tuesday of this week, I was at Children's Hospital Los Angeles with Zendaya. She's in the new Spider-Man movie. So we went into the teen lounge room, and we had kids there watching the movie, but these kids were hooked to their chemotherapy. Some had devices on their head where they couldn't move, and you just looked at what they were going through, yet they were there and they had a smile on their face, and they got to be with Zendaya and hang out. And it was so inspiring to see that, you know what, no matter what you're going through, you can choose to be happy. Happiness is not circumstantial.
Right.
It's attitudinal. And we always
Ooh, I
get to
love that.
choose it, and we get to prioritize it.
Wow.
We can wake up and have a 1 or a 10. We could have a 10 every day.
Yeah.
Who's responsible if we don't have a 10? We are.
Yeah.
So why not wake up every day with the desire to choose to have a 10?
Right. Very well said. I love that. So, you go through, you're at the Denver Broncos, then you come over here to the Children's Miracle Network.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that experience in the beginning, and then just how that's, you're already saying some things, but talk about how that's cultivated what you're doing even today.
Okay. Well, the first year of my job, we started this amazing program called Champions, where we took one kid from every state to the White House to meet with the president, and then to go to Disney World.
Really?
And so in 1996, I got to meet a kid named Josh Sundquist. And Josh had just lost his leg at the hip from Ewing sarcoma. Doctors gave him 50% chance of survival.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being so inspired by him. Well, I actually just saw him a couple days ago. So we've been friends for 23 years.
Really?
And he now is a very famous motivational speaker, author, YouTuber, and Paralympian. And his ski coach told him he had a 1 in a million chance of making the Paralympic ski team, and he was the 1 in a million.
1 in a million.
And he told me that I didn't want to look back and know that I could have been the 1 in a million. He was the 1 in a million.
Really?
He is a miracle. He chooses to not let his disability be a disability. Life maybe gave him lemons, and he made lemonade.
Yeah.
And now you can Google Josh Sundquist. He has very famous and viral Halloween costumes that he makes with his one leg.
Really?
And they're amazing. And he's a comedian as well. I just went and saw his show.
Are you serious?
Actually, it was months ago that I saw a show in Santa Monica, and he's amazing. So just having and meeting kids like that and having them in my life really is the biggest blessing.
Yeah.
Because I know these kids, I've seen them grow up. I am so inspired. They make me know that I can do anything.
Yeah. So you meet this kid 23 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking, you remember when you were up in that press box, you're like, I get to do this. I get paid.
Yeah.
Were you thinking kind of the same thing? Like, I can't believe I get to rub shoulders.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe I was in the
people.
White House with the president. I mean, I've got to meet the president. I mean, these things I really can't believe, but I honestly believe that life is magnificent and beautiful and magical. And I believe that we are magical. I believe that we can manifest anything in our life. And I have so many fun stories I could share with you.
Yes,
around that.
please share some of them. Actually, I'd love you to share a couple of those because, I call this a belief cast because I really believe that belief dictates the way we behave, right? Yeah. And when we change the way we think and believe, I agree with you. It's like a miracle. It's like, wow, look at everything that has changed because I've changed the way I look at and see things.
Yes.
And you look at the world in such a beautiful way, in a powerful way. So talk about some of those experiences if you don't mind.
Well, I once read the book by Pam Grout called E Squared. And basically it's 9 experiences that prove that what you think about comes into existence. So the first experience was to look for green cars. I look out my window and there's a bright green car. We see and find what we're looking for.
I agree.
Always.
Totally agree.
So the next day I fly to Nashville for work, and my experiment was to find a butterfly. And I was in the hotel working out that day, and I'm flipping through the channels because I'm like, I'm going to find some kid's show and there's going to be a butterfly, and I am going to find this butterfly. I don't see it. And I end up going out to Nashville to see my buddy Miles Adcox, and he is the founder of Onsite. It's an addiction treatment center in Nashville. And I go see him, and I walk by his office, and on his table is a rock, and it has a butterfly on it, and it says relax. And I'm like, this is so unbelievable. Like, God's very aware of me. Like, there's the butterfly. I don't have to look for it. He's aware of what I'm thinking about. And then Miles' girlfriend gives me a book with a butterfly on it. That's crazy. And that day, or I don't know if it was that trip, but I was very mindful of looking for blessings one day. And the person who cleans my room left me a note on my bed that said, enjoy your blessing.
Really?
Now that's weird, right?
Right.
That doesn't happen, but it did. And that's hanging up in my office because it helps me remember we always find what we're looking for. One day I was in Dallas at the Country Music Awards, and I was talking about Luke Bryan. Luke Bryan walked right by me.
Really?
Like, I was just talking about Luke Bryan. I had that in a hotel in New Orleans. I was talking about Shaq. I get to my hotel room that night. Shaq walks out of the elevator. The 30 miles from downtown where all of the hotels were, Shaq was at my hotel. Right. Like, you really can manifest what it is that you want. Always. Like, if I want to visualize a parking space, I can visualize it. It just happens. Yeah. It's whatever you focus and think about, you will create. It's so cool. It's so fun playing with life that way because it works. Yeah. It works. What do you want to manifest in your life? Think about that. Focus on that. Speak what you seek until you see what you said.
Wow. Say that again. That's powerful.
Speak what you seek until you see what you said.
Wow, that is
and really
amazing.
One thing that I love is I am. Like, anything that you say after I am always comes about. Yeah. So you have to be very mindful of your language and your words. If you say I am tired, you're going to be tired all day. I went and listened to Oprah a couple years ago in DC, and she said, I always say I am waiting on my second wind rather than saying I'm tired, because really we will bring about whatever we say after I am. So we have to be careful. We have to be so careful with our language, but we really can manifest whatever it is that we want.
That's so well said, Kelly. I was telling my group yesterday, have you ever noticed when you buy a car or get a car, you notice that car everywhere?
Yes.
And I was tying that into when we think negatively, we will see all the negative on this planet.
Yes.
It just becomes, like you said, manifest it. But so if you shift that and change your thoughts to positive and all the good that's there, you're going to see all the good and you're going to be like, wow, it's amazing how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, and I struggle with this back in around 2000, 2001. I was really struggling with my beliefs and my thoughts about myself. I felt too fat to exist. I really couldn't stand myself. I couldn't look in the mirror. And so I went to a treatment center in Sheffield, Massachusetts, and it's called the Option Institute. And they teach you about the power of your beliefs. So you have a stimulus, and then you have a belief, and then you have a response.
Yeah.
So I really had to look at my beliefs, drop those that weren't serving me, and change them to those that do. Because really, life is like, we all have a set of glasses on, and they're a filter. And so we are always looking for, if I think life is not friendly, then those filters that I'm looking through will just show evidence that life is not friendly. But for me, I believe that life is my friend and that life loves me.
Okay.
And so life every day shows me evidence that it loves me. Like, when I was in LA a couple days ago, I left something in my Uber car. The person came running after me to give me what I left. Life loves me.
Right.
And little things, little tiny things like that happen to me all the time because I'm paying attention. And it's so important that once we do pay attention, that we're grateful and that we can help life love other people too.
Wow. Again, very well said. That is powerful. And you see this too with these kids you're dealing with, that even though they're going through something very difficult, just like the guy that you were talking about earlier, how he manifested that into his life.
Yes.
I will be the one in the million. I will do it.
Yes. Yeah. I just believe that we and these kids are capable of anything. And I honestly, Todd, I feel like the best part of life is when we are focused outside of ourselves. And we are striving to be that miracle for other people. And for me, it's a daily thing, because like literally sometimes my depression is so bad that I just don't want to be here, but if I'm focused on serving and helping other people, it just makes life matter. It makes it worth living. And but I think it's really going back to the beliefs. A lot of times these negative beliefs are like terrorists living in our brain. We wouldn't let a terrorist live in our home. Why would we let a terrorist live in our brain? We wouldn't do it. And so it does go back to, how can we create beliefs that serve us? Because every belief has a destination. is that belief getting you to the destination that you want to go to? And so
like
my
that.
beliefs nowadays, I have a lot of them because it's how I live my life. What am I choosing to believe? Because our life is determined by our belief system. The quality of our life is determined by our belief system. And so what are we going to believe today that is going to make us have a 10?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is so amazing. And it really just, I'm always fascinated about how our beliefs are so powerful and how they dictate how things happen.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, it sounds like, you know, you still have to make that conscious decision today. You know, like you said, there's days, some days you know, maybe are down, you don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Is that been kind of an ongoing thing for you, or?
Yeah, it has been. I'm going to back up. So
Okay.
about 20 years ago, I started with an addictive behavior where, well, let me explain what body dysmorphic disorder is.
Please, yeah.
It's a mental condition where your mind is fixated on your physical imperfections and flaws, and this perceived ugliness makes you want to isolate yourself from the world and not get out of bed and not be seen. And a third of the people that have BDD have skin picking conditions, a fourth are suicidal. And so for me, I've been digging holes in my face for 20 years, and it's like up by my eyebrows, and I will make my face a bloody mess because I have this belief that the hairs in my face are evil and they need to come out.
Really?
And it's really been controlling my life for a long time. So in 2010, my friend was struggling with addiction. She was popping pills a lot. And I was struggling with this behavior because even though I wasn't a heroin addict or whatever it is, any behavior that is controlling your life is an addiction. So I read the book, The Alcoholism and Addiction Cure by Chris Prentice. And the book had a line that really gave me hope that once you identify the underlying condition that's causing the dependency to the behavior can go away.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
So you're not saying it's an addiction. You're saying it's, how would I word it? It's not an addiction. It's a, how do you say it?
I say it's a belief system.
Yeah, it's a belief system.
Yeah. And and you change the belief system, behavior changes. Yeah.
So I went to this place called Passages. It's an addiction treatment center, and I remember checking in, and everyone's, you know, I'm there with people that have some really crazy addictions, but I was willing to pay a lot of money because this behavior was making me miserable, and it was controlling everything about my life. I mean, I didn't date, I isolated, I didn't want to be seen. It was just this behavior. It was, I have to get the hairs out. It was a high if I got them out. It was a way to punish. It was a way to please. It was a way to celebrate. It was an addictive behavior.
Right, yeah.
And so I learned so many amazing things at this treatment center. It was a holistic approach to treatment. So it was hypnotherapy, acupuncture, psychotherapy, sound music therapy, physical activity, life purpose. And this treatment center really helped me so much because I learned that I was looking through my life with these foggy glasses, and I could actually choose to look differently based on what my beliefs were. So I started writing a book called Shattering the Broken Mirror because the mirror I had been looking through was very broken. And instead of seeing myself the way I saw myself in that broken mirror, there were 3 other ways I could do that. I could look at myself the way others saw me, the way God saw me, and my inner beauty. And so that really helped me see myself differently. I also really learned how to be present. I learned a thing called dragon walking.
Say that again?
Dragon walking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we went outside, and every step, we felt every inch of our foot hit the ground, and we were with that moment completely. And so it was a different way to walk. For me, I've just been going. But what if you actually felt your foot hit the ground and you were there in that moment? Wow. I also learned about, we went on a walk one night, or a hike, and we were with our life purpose coach, and he had us all carry a stick, and he called it our crap stick. Let's just say that was our crap stick.
Okay.
We threw away our crap stick, and we said, I know longer do this, and I now embrace this. And it was really cool. It was really, and we were at a fire pit thing. We threw away our stick and just like, I no longer, and I now embrace. And it was a really cool experience. But treatment, it taught me a lot. But unfortunately, I still suffer. Well, let's just say this. Suffer is a good word. I suffer because I choose to have a belief that I need to get the hairs out of my face and that I'm not okay if they're in there. And it's unfortunate, but I could choose to surrender. Right. But I haven't been willing to surrender. But when we're willing to let go of what we've used our whole life to get what we want, to allow something greater to come in.
Right.
And I just haven't been willing to let go of this behavior, and it has been very controlling, and it still is. But even though I'm still dealing with it, I know that I have a choice. Yeah. And I know I could make a different choice in my life, would probably have less anxiety and depression. But I have been choosing it, and I have to have accountability in that, and I do. And I've had a lot of therapy over the years, but it's challenging. It's challenging when you have that addictive behavior, and usually we're not addicted to the behavior, we're addicted to the pain, not the substance. We're just addicted to that pain, and so I think I just have to be willing to let that pain go.
Yeah, one of the best definitions of addiction I've come across here with one of the therapists that I work with said, it's the perpetual avoidance of legitimate suffering. And so if you sat there and didn't pick, right? Oh yeah. You would be suffering on, but it's legitimate because it's just what you're going through. Yeah. But then you'll avoid it by doing the behavior. Yeah. And so, and I love what you said, Kelli, that and I'm so glad you said it, because I think a lot of people think that you're not in control. Like you're just saying, I'm choosing it. You're aware of that. Yeah. But belief systems they're powerful. Yeah. And changing them it takes blood, sweat, and tears. It really, truly does, especially something that maybe you've struggled with since you were little. Yeah. And I think it's important that we understand that we always typically end up doing what we want to do.
I think we get everything in life that we want because we're choosing it. Yeah. And the good, the bad, the ugly. Like we get what we want. Yeah. And that sucks, but it is true.
Yeah, it is true. We are the creators of our mess and the creators of our joy. We really are. Yeah. And we're not perfect human beings. Yeah. No one is. And people listening to this, you're going to have a lot of people listening to your story today, Kelli, that are going through probably similar things as you, addiction, what have you, that are going right now, shaking their head going, yep, I understand. Yeah. It's like, why do I keep doing this? But it's it does take that blood, sweat, and tears to change that, you know?
Well, I'll tell you one tool that's really helped me. Yeah. About 14 years ago, I read the book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And I actually just recently interviewed her on the Untold Miracles podcast. Byron was depressed and an addict for years and years. She actually didn't leave her house for 2 years because she was so depressed. She didn't even sleep in her bed because she didn't think she was worthy. One day she woke up, saw a cockroach on her foot, and everything changed. And she saw life through a completely different lens, and she developed the work. Have you heard of the work?
I have not.
Okay, this is going to change your life because it changed mine.
Great.
So the work is an inquiry process because we only suffer when we argue with reality. So we have to question our own thoughts. And she teaches an inquiry process of how to do that. Because when we argue with reality, we're thinking something that is shouldn't be, but everything that is already is, and no thinking can change that. Right. So here's the inquiry. Okay. Let's say you have a belief, a thought. For me, let's just say, because I'm 46, I've never been married. I don't have kids, and I'm Mormon, so I had a lot of beliefs around that I was a loser, that I'm not good enough, that I am not lovable, you name it. I've had a lot of things that beliefs I've had to process. Sure. Thankfully, I'm in a very different place with that. Yeah. But I used to have the belief that I'm not lovable. So there's the thought. First question, is it true? So I can ask myself, is it true that I'm not lovable? Second question, can you absolutely 100% know that that's true? Well, I don't know. It feels pretty true, right? It feels really true that I'm not lovable. The third question, how do you feel physically inside when you think that thought? Well, worthless. I'm never going to find anyone. Sick, physically sick.
Yeah.
And then who are you without that thought? I'm a completely different person.
Oh, I love
if
that.
I think that I am lovable, everything in my life changes. And then the most powerful question is the end. Last question. It's the turnaround. I'm not lovable. I am lovable. So you can always turn the thought around to see if it's true, because we suffer when we believe a thought that's not true. That's when true pain comes.
Yeah.
And so that inquiry process, everything in your life, if something comes up, oh, he did this, it means this. Okay, is that true? Can I 100% know for sure? Who would I be without that thought? Or how do I react when I think that thought? Yeah. Who would I be without it? And what's the turnaround? Oh, he actually does love me. You know, that changes your life. That inquiry work process will change your life.
Love it.
But it's one of my favorite books, Loving What Is. Don't argue. When you argue with reality, you will lose 100% of the time.
Yeah. Wow.
Like traffic.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be traffic. Well, is that true? Well, I wish there wasn't. You know, who would you be? Well, there is traffic. Then your anxiety goes away. You know, it changes everything to just use that. And so I really highly recommend any books by Byron Katie. She's amazing.
Yeah. No, I've heard of her and amazing stuff. And I love the simplicity of that.
Oh, it's so easy.
Simple. It's simple, but yet powerful. And that's one of the things I really pride myself on, and is just simplifying this whole thing. And I love how the way you're talking today and the way you're saying things, it's so simplistic, but you can feel the power behind it.
Yeah.
You know?
We do sometimes think that we have to complicate things.
I know.
And we don't. The answers are really simple, because Oprah's probably my favorite person, but she says that, you know, life is always speaking to us, always. And are we paying attention? Are we honoring our calling? A lot of times we hear the whispers. If we don't pay attention to the whispers, then we're going to start feeling pebbles. If we don't pay attention to those pebbles, we're going to hit a brick wall. But if we would have just listened to those whispers in the beginning, life is there to love us. Yeah.
Wow. Very powerful. Well, Kelli, if, you know, I'm sure there's some people who are listening to this that are looking for a miracle.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure things out. They're struggling. You know, obviously they're hearing what you've been going through and how your attitude about it's amazing, actually. What advice could you give someone out there right now that's just kind of, like you're saying, they're maybe not listening to what life is saying to them, and they're just in this kind of limbo?
Okay, I'm going to just share some tools that really help me, okay?
Please.
Every night before I go to bed, for the last 15 years, I've done a gratitude journal. I love this process because no matter what you experience on a daily basis, there are so many little tiny things that we can choose to be grateful for no matter what. I love Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning.
It's one of my favorites.
He was in a concentration camp and he was fed a bowl of dirty water with a fish head in it. If he couldn't find the beauty in that dirty bowl of water, he wouldn't have continued to survive. But he could find and determine his meaning in anything. We can choose to be grateful no matter what. So gratitude is a huge thing that helps me face some of the challenging things that I go through. Choosing to be present.
Yeah, gratitude, I think, is the most powerful stimulant on the planet.
Yeah. Worrying is a prayer for what we don't want. It's a negative journal setting. So if we're present, there's no worry, because we're either focused on the past or worried about the future. And so I think being present is another great way. Being non-judgmental is a huge way to help us. Being very mindful that we can prioritize happiness in our life. And I think really just believing that anything is possible no matter what. I'm so grateful for my challenges, because there's no way I would have experienced all the things that I have if I didn't suffer so greatly on this side. And I just want to share Isaiah Costa's story with you. So I met Isaiah a couple years ago. And Isaiah was born without an air passage or a jaw, and he didn't have oxygen for 15 minutes. And doctors said he'd be a vegetable. And Isaiah's parents chose to believe differently. And I can't tell you how many parents I know who chose to believe differently, that their child would survive, that their child would thrive. And Isaiah looks very different than other people. And he could have surgery to get a jaw, but he doesn't want to because he loves himself the way God made him. Wow. He wants people to see past his physical appearance.
Right.
So when I met him in 2016, I was so inspired by this kid. I'm like, I struggle with my body dysmorphic disorder. And here's this kid who just loves himself the way God made him. And Isaiah has dealt with a lot of bullying in his life. It's been really challenging, but Isaiah has always believed in himself.
Yeah.
And Isaiah loves rap music. And so one night we were talking on the phone, and I'm like, Isaiah, I bet you've got a lot of things that you want to say, because he's mute. He's never spoken a word. He's never tasted food. He's never been underwater. And I'm like, Isaiah, I bet you have so much inside of you. Let's get it out on paper. So he sends me a picture back with a blank piece of paper and a pen and says, I'm going to get started. A couple hours later, I have lyrics. So fast forward, Children's Miracle Network Hospitals finds a rapper to be his physical voice. Wow. And they collaborate on his first song called Oxygen to Fly.
Really?
And you can go to oxygentofly.org to watch the 6-minute documentary we did on his life. Isaiah and Trap create this music. Isaiah has a voice for the first time in his life. Even though he doesn't have a physical voice, he has a voice that's being heard around the world. This video went viral, 100+ million views, and he's been inspiring the world because he believed that he could.
Yeah.
And it's a constant battle because he has a lot of medical challenges. And unfortunately, his voice, Trap, passed away in January. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he died 2 months after getting diagnosed. So Isaiah is really struggling right now with that, losing his best friend and losing his voice. But Isaiah is changing the world. And Isaiah could focus on, oh my gosh, my life is hard. Yeah. I'll never speak. I look different. But Isaiah focuses on what's right in his world. I love waking up and saying, what's right in my world today? He goes out and he feeds the homeless. He goes to the children's hospital. He's always creating inspiring content.
Right.
He's like my hero.
Yeah.
And I could tell you so many kids like this who really use that challenging experience in their life as the most beautiful thing in their life. And are we going to choose to see it so?
Wow. Amazing. And he's just recently on your podcast,
yeah,
right?
He was my guest on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was so cool because he doesn't use a voice recorder.
Right.
He just used text messages and gestures.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Isaiah, we got to do this podcast. So he did a voice recorder, and we were able to do that. And it was so fun because he's met so many celebrities over the years. And I'm like, who's your favorite celebrity you met? And he's like, Marie Osmond. So we called her while we did it, and and she FaceTimed
Seriously?
us. And it was really fun. So
that's awesome.
I believe that no matter what it is that you're going through, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Because God's will is involved in everything. Yeah. And are you going to be open to that? Or are you going to try to control things your way?
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that story. It chokes me up as you're saying this. And, I loved what you said too earlier, Kelly, about that gratitude, how just even this, like we talked about, the kid who could see color for the first time, we take for granted I can see color.
Yes.
Like, when is the last time I said thank you that I can see color? It's like, so I think I love that you said that, and I think that's a place. And then I love the inquiry thing that you talked about.
Oh my gosh. Everyone, no matter, I challenge you today, whatever that thought is that's really hard for you, like, oh, my boss is a jerk, or whatever it is, use that inquiry process and see if you can find the turnaround that feels true for you.
Yeah.
That'll change everything.
It will change
It really
everything.
will. I wanted to share real quick the story of AJ. So AJ is, actually, there's 2 stories I want to share that I feel like hopefully will inspire your listeners.
Yes.
AJ has 7 inoperable brain tumors, and he's currently getting chemotherapy at our East Tennessee Children's Hospital. But AJ is the happiest, funniest kid, and you would never know that he has weekly chemo treatments because he's just so funny. Every week on Facebook, he tells a joke. Well, he loves Captain America, and he has a port called Steve Rogers. So I reached out to Chris Pine, Chris Evans, Captain America, and asked him if he could do a video for AJ, and he sends a video, which is so amazing, and AJ gets it while he's at treatment with his Captain America backpack.
Really?
And I share that because we can do little things like that can totally change people's day. Mm-hmm. And it's just tiny. Like if we would just pay attention to the whisperings, they're like, hey, you should do that. You should do that. Like Chris Evans didn't have to do that video, but he did. It meant the world to AJ.
Right.
What are we going to do to help others? And I promise you, it will 100% lighten your burden. I'm not saying your burden is going to go away, but I am saying it will be lifted.
Yeah.
And it will be lighter.
Yeah.
And that will make you have a better day. Second story, you know this one because I shared it in the office with you, but
yes.
I have a little fiance and his name is Maverick. He actually got down on one knee with a diamond ring and asked me to marry him when he was fully grown up. And I said yes. Right. But Maverick is a hero of mine. He's had over 40 surgeries, including 5 open heart surgeries. And Maverick is chronically ill.
Wow.
But one day when he wasn't feeling well, I reached out to my friend Kevin Millar, who played first baseman for the Red Sox when they won the World Series, because Maverick's hero is David Ortiz. And so I saw on Instagram that Kevin and his kids were with Big Papi, and I'm like, can you please get a video from Big Papi? Because I've been trying to make it happen for months, but Kevin said he didn't have his phone number. He had so many cell numbers and he'd lost it. So 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I had a text from Big Papi. He didn't have to do this. There's so many kids that would love a video from Big Papi. Sure. And it said, Maverick, stay positive, keep the faith. I'm praying for you. I love you. And I'm going to hit a home run for you tonight. And you just have to fast forward a couple hours. It's a beautiful night at Fenway Park.
Yeah.
And the Boston Red Sox are playing their rival, the New York Yankees.
The Yankees, yeah.
Yeah, and Big Papi steps up to bat the first time he strikes out, the second time he strikes out, the third time he strikes out. He steps up to bat the fourth time. It's the bottom of the 8th inning. The game is tied 2-2. He is up against one of the best relieving pitchers in the game, someone he has never had a hit off of in his entire career. And he hits a game-winning 2-run home run for Maverick.
Wow.
Now, here's the crazy part of the story, and I didn't share this with you. The day before, Maverick's mom posted on Facebook, my family needs a miracle. Wow. They got their miracle in less than 24 hours.
Right.
After the home run was hit, I got a video from Maverick for Big Papi that said, Big Papi, you never let me down, and I'm going to try my hardest to get to Fenway Park to meet you. Wow. And thanks to Kevin Millar, within 2 weeks, I was on a private plane with my little man for him to throw out his first pitch and meet his hero. Wow. And I have to tell you, Todd, the moment that they met will forever be embraced in my mind, because we knew he was going to walk in, but Maverick didn't know it.
Right.
And David Ortiz is larger than life.
For sure.
And he walks in the room, and Maverick is just little. He's got a lot of things that make him not grow. So he was 5'6" at the time, and he looks up, and he's like, Big Papi. And they embraced, and I cried. And he had the home run ball that he'd hit for him in his hands, because the fan was thinking outside of himself.
Right.
Focused on creating a miracle for someone else.
Wow.
And that was one of the coolest days of my life. And that's actually my book, The Miracle of Maverick. It's on Amazon. 100% of the proceeds benefits Children's Miracle Network hospitals to help more kids like Maverick. And so Maverick is such an inspiration to me. This little guy goes through so much, yet he chooses to be brave. He chooses to be positive. And then David Ortiz chooses to be that hero and that miracle for someone else.
Amazing.
And so I just am really blessed to have these stories that I can think about, and these kids that I can think about, and they really help me deal with my challenges. Yeah. And honestly, we all have those people in our lives that we can look to.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking to you, seriously, and thank you. What I've noticed in your stories, and it's choking me up, I apologize, I'm getting emotional over here, because I'm holding that book in my hand, The Miracle of Maverick, and his picture's on the front. And what a beautiful kid. That you're a miracle for a lot of people, because you're facilitating this. You're making it happen. You're going out of your way. And it goes back to, and what reminds me, and I apologize here, I'm getting emotional, is when you said, I'm going to work for the Denver Broncos. I'm going to make it. I don't care. They said no twice. I'm going there, and I'm going to go, who do I need to talk to make this happen? And it's interesting, and I'm just putting this in my head right now and connecting the dots that led to, there's no reason why they chose you. There's no reason why that's the reason, because you're that one that will get things done. So you're the miracle for so many people.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, so I work with a lot of A-list celebrities.
Right.
And I love it because I feel like my job is to create miracles in the lives of sick kids. And I could tell you a lot more stories. Oh, I have to share one quick story.
Please, no.
How much time do I have?
We're good.
Okay, this one is amazing because, oh my gosh, I think about this kid all the time, and I hope everyone else will think about this kid. His name is Little Boo. And Little Boo, when he was 5 years old, got the H1N1 virus, which is the swine flu. And it ravaged his entire body. And he spent 501 days in his children's hospitals. And doctors said he would not live. There was a 48-hour period where his blood gas levels were so high that he should have died. But they were in the room praising God because they believed that their child was going to be okay. And after 501 days, Little Boo got out of the hospital, and for the next 3.5 years, he had to have dialysis. He's from a small town in Louisiana, drive 3 hours, sit in a chair for 3 hours, drive home 3 hours. That was his childhood for 3 years. Well, his 5th grade year of elementary, well, he'd missed elementary, but when he was in 5th grade, he got a successful kidney transplant from his mom, which was so amazing. So I reached out to my friend Meredith Vieira, who had the show, Meredith Vieira Show.
Yeah, sure.
So they flew Little Boo to New York City for the show. And what's really cool about this story is when Little Boo was in the hospital, he kept a journal because he watched the show Drive-Ins, Diners, and Dives by Guy Fieri.
I love that.
He made a list of every place he was going to eat when he could eat because he hadn't been able to eat. So they get him on the show and they give Little Boo a cookbook from Guy Fieri, and he's freaking out. This is so cool. And then he comes on the big screen and he says, Little Boo, you're going to get on the train as soon as this show is over, and you're going to come meet me and help open my new restaurant. And Little Boo had the most amazing day. And so for me, I love what can I do with my resources and my relationships to make someone's day. I was recently with Katy Perry at American Idol because one of my little miracle kids loves Katy Perry. Well, of course I love that miracle child, and I'm going to do everything it takes for my little sweet Sash to meet Katy Perry. My other little buddy Devin loved Odell Beckham Jr., so I worked with the Giants, and we did a really amazing piece for the NFL Network, and he got to meet his hero. That's what matters to me.
Sure.
Serving other people. That's what it's about. And we can choose that all day, or I can focus on my BDD or my OCD or my suicidal thoughts or my low self-esteem, my lack of self-love, anxiety, depression. I could focus on that all day long. And some days I don't win. Some days I do let that really control what's happening, but it's not that often.
Yeah.
And when it does, I still know that, you know what? I got this.
Yeah.
I got this because I trust God's plan for my life.
Wow.
I actually had a dream of having 4 kids. And God had a way bigger dream for me because I have over 100. And I am very blessed.
Yes. Wow. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I'm serious. Thank you for sharing all of this. I'm getting emotional. I'm a crybaby. I'm sorry, Kelly. You have to witness this. But it's inspiring. You know, it's interesting, too, how things work out. Like yesterday in my group, I was talking about what's the definition of a miracle? And everyone was trying to, and you probably have a better one than I'm going to say, but and the one that I had found that really touched me was it's an event so unlikely that it seems almost impossible.
I love that.
And we talked about that. So
I love that. I have 2 definitions I want to share.
Please.
My first one is God bending the rules in your favor. So I really like that.
Love that one.
Second one is a miracle is a shift in perception from fear to love. So in life, we get to say, what would love choose in every moment? What would love choose here? My girlfriend actually snuck into my bathroom one day and wrote with lipstick, what would love choose? Would love choose to dig holes in your face right now with these tweezers? And I think another really powerful thing when you look at your beliefs is determining who the author is of the thought. Who wins when you think that thought? So I'm not lovable. Is that from God or is that from somewhere else?
Yeah, where's that coming from?
So I
Who's
think
the
I think really paying attention to who the author can really help determine whether that belief is true.
Yeah.
And I think that can also help.
Wow, powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. Well, I could talk to you all day. Honestly, unfortunately, we have to wrap this up. Amazing. Thank you so much for being willing to share and be vulnerable with your story with all of us. I can't thank you enough, Kelli.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And Todd, really, we're all suffering or struggling with something, but so many times we aren't connecting with others. We're attached to our ego selves. We don't want to surrender and we don't want to share what's really going on. But I really hope that my story might help someone. And if someone needs someone to talk to, like I'm like happy to talk to anyone, just because I get it. I know what it feels like to not want to live.
Yeah.
And I know what it feels like to just be done.
Yeah.
And so if you're there.
Well, with that said, how would someone reach out to you if they have a question for you or if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, go to my website. It's book Kelli Davis, Kelli Davis.com, and you can send me an email and I'll respond to any emails. And I would really be happy to, especially if you're at that place where you're really struggling.
Yes, please do that.
Please reach out to me because I've been there and I know that it's going to get better.
Wow, amazing. Well, there you go, listeners. Another amazing Belief Cast with another amazing person. I pinch myself that I get to do this, kind of like when you were in that press box. I get to do this. I feel the same way sitting here with you today. So thank you, Kelli, so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to me. Listeners, please go check out her podcast, Untold Miracles Podcast. Check that out. Go to her website, bookkellidavis.com. And please go get her book too. It's on Amazon, The Miracle of Maverick.
And I have to do one more quick plug. So
plug it away.
As I work for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, we save kids' lives. We treat 10 million kids each year. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can go to cmnhospitals.org, donate $1. That $1 will help create a miracle in the life of a sick child.
Yes. And allow Kelli to keep doing what she's doing, man. So thank you for being you.
Thank
you. You are a light to this world, and I'm grateful that I know you. And I look forward to collaborating on some things, hopefully you and I together.
Yes.
And so thank you for the time. And listeners, there you go. I mean, come on, man. Is this incredible or what? Please share this with your family and friends. Let's get the word out. Let's get people to know Kelli. And please reach out to her with anything that you may want to ask her with.
Thank you. And I hope everyone has an amazing day.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kelli. And thanks, listeners, for all you do.